What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Cartoon Conspiracy Theories with your host, K-Mac Time. And as always, we have a great show for you guys today. So pumped for this. This is another one of my all-time favorite shows from when I was growing up. Another great Cartoon Network show. One of my favorites when I was growing up, like I said. Of course, I'm talking about the Codename Kids Next Door. Now, in this theory, we're talking about how the kids are actually playing make-believe, and they are just imagining the bad villains being bad people in their reality. They are just normal people, and we're going to tell every reason why of every villain. And then we're going to start it in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's get started. Now, first off, we're going to start off with Father. Now, Father, if you don't remember, is of course, the father of the delightful children from down the lane. He's covered in flames. He's always mean. And what he represents is what the kids hate most about adults, which is authority, discipline, basically anything that has to do with being a parent. That is what this person is. And when in reality, he is probably just one of the kids' parents and in just a normal, nice guy. And is probably just, kind of hard on kids are usually because they like to cause mischief. And that's just how kids are. Sometimes parents have to lay down the law, and kids don't really respond well to that, so they made him into a supervillain in their make-believe game. Now, up next is Sticky Beard. Now, Sticky Beard represents the fact that adults are always trying to get kids to stop from having too much candy. They're always constantly telling kids, no, you can't have another sucker. No, you can't have another piece of candy. You're going to be too hyper. You're going to be too full of sugar. You'll never go to bed. You'll never go to sleep. And you're going to be too hyper. And parents don't want to deal with that. They come back from working a long day, and they don't want hyper kids all jacked up on candy. And that is the kids' fear of adults taking their candy away, when in reality, this person is probably just a normal person, and he's probably actually a health nut, actually, because he has to do with the nutrition in children, so might even be a nutritionist in real life. Who knows? Now, next up is Mr. Boss. Now, Mr. Boss represents the children's parents always being busy at work. Now, this is very common in children at a young age. Their parents are usually working hard to try and support the new family if they have a newborn child or a new younger kid, and they might have to work a lot more. And they might be at that point in their career where they're trying to get up into the higher management. They're trying to get that promotion. They're trying to get noticed by the higher up. So they're putting in those extra overtime hours. They're putting in those weekends, those late nights, really burning that midnight oil to really kiss ass to their boss to get that money because they have to pay for these kids now. And what comes with that is not seeing your kids as much. You don't get to play with your kids. You don't get to have that time with your kids that you wish you had. And that is what Mr. Boss represents. He's an evil boss that keeps their parents away from playing with their kids. And that is why he is a villain in their make-believe game. Next up, we have the delightful children from down the lane. This represents the kids' fear of becoming the goody two-shoes. The kids that always follow the rules and are just those kind of lame kids that you don't really want to hang around with. They always seem to be, the church kids, not always church kids. I don't mean to point fingers at people that are religious, because that is not what this is about at all. But those goody two-shoe kids that never seem to do anything wrong. They're not fun. They're not rebellious. They just kind of go with the flow. They if a teacher tells them to read chapter 10, they read chapter 10. They might even read it twice. Instead of the kids that just kind of skim over it, go out to recess and have a good time. Those are the kind of kids that they don't want to be. They don't really have a whole lot of fun when they're young. And those are the kind of kids that they're trying to avoid. So they kind of villainize those kids as well. And that's what the delightful children from down the lane end up becoming. That's why they're villainized in their imagination game as well. Next up is Night Brace. Now, Night Brace obviously represents the children's fear for the dentist. Now, no kid out there who is under the age of 10, nobody likes to go to the dentist, especially children. Children hate going to the dentist, so of course they would take the dentist and vilify them in their imagination game, when in reality he's probably just a nice dentist, a normal guy who just happens to be a dentist and tries to get kids to brush their teeth and floss and stuff like that. But they villainize them because kids hate going to the dentist. They hear those drills, they get the scrapey things, they get the gas, they think they're going to die, and they inevitably have a fear of the dentist, and that is why he is vilified in their little imagination game. Next up, we have Nurse Claiborne. Now, she is probably in reality just a school nurse, but she has become a villain in their imagination games because she is, children are always afraid of healthcare practitioners and doctors when they seem to be that age. They're always getting shots, they're getting, checks, they're getting tested, they're getting, thermometers. All these things scare young kids, and that's basically why she becomes a villain, is because they're afraid of her. They don't like going to the nurse's office at school. They hate that, so they make her a villain in their imagination world as well. Now, Grandma Stuffin just represents the grandmother that everyone has. Everyone has a grandmother that tries to shove food down their face until they can't eat. And if they don't eat it, they're not polite, and the grandmother might, smack them because, that's how they did things back in the day when the grandmother was a child. If they didn't eat their food, they would get hit with a ruler, and they might carry that on to the children of this generation, and it might scare them. It might, freak them out a little bit. So basically what this is just an overzealous grandmother who lives by the old school rules and, maybe gets a little bit too rough with the kids when they don't finish their meal or they don't eat their Brussels sprouts or something along those lines. And that's why she is a villain in their imagination game as well. And finally, we have the Toyline Ater. Now, the Toyline Ater is, in reality, just a homeless, crazy person who likes to play along with children because he's kind of delusional, and he's just this weird older guy, and he really has nothing better to do with his time. Like I said, he's homeless. And this makes perfect sense because in this show, the Toyline Ater is not liked by other villains. In fact, the other villains actively hate him. They tell him he's not a villain. They tell him he's not fun, he's not cool, and that he can't be part of their villains club. But what this really means is that all the other villains are actually just normal people. They're grandmothers, nurses, dentists, fathers. When in this guy, in reality, is just a homeless weirdo who likes to wear a toilet seat on his head. In reality, so that makes perfect sense why he is not actually part of the villain fold or not liked by other villains in the show. But that is it for all the villains. Now I want to talk really quickly, guys, just real quickly about another thing that could add to this, potentially add to this theory. Again, with the weapons of the KND are always these really cool improvised weapons about, gumdrops and hot sauce guns and, lunchbox guns, stuff like that. Another thing is another thing that kids love to imagine. They love to imagine taking things and shooting them and blowing things up. Is like I remember doing that so much as a kid. That's one of my favorite things to do was to take a can of something and tape it to something else, and it made it look like a gun. And I would imagine I would shoot people with that gun. And it makes perfect sense why that is happening in this game as well. But that is all the time we have for this theory, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys like this theory. And if you guys could drop a like on this video, it would be very, very much appreciated. And if we hit 500 likes on this video, I'll drop out next week's theory a day early. And as always, make sure you guys subscribe. Come check out some more cartoon conspiracy theories over on my channel. And as always, guys, have a great day. Game the fuck on. Until next time, guys. Peace.